Hello, welcome back to Your Money in Real Estate. We're talking about money, because that seems to be what everybody wants to talk about, is getting a return, finding out the best option. So, Andrew, before the break, we were talking about RSPs and, the type of client and stuff. And, let's pick up where we left off then.
Okay, absolutely. And in marketing, we also talked about process and,
right, due diligence and things like that.
Yeah, we got caught up in that due diligence process. And that's something that I really want to urge you, don't just go out and find a neighbor who wants to borrow some money and secure it against his house. Granted, if you really trust the person, you can do something like that, but that's not something that we at ProFunds would recommend. Due diligence is, a process of screening a client and making sure that they are worthy of your money. And that's the value that we add at ProFunds. We treat your money like it's our money.
Right.
And, we would never encourage one of our clients to lend on something if we wouldn't do it ourselves. And the only way I would ever have one of my clients lend when I wouldn't do it myself is I would tell them that, I wouldn't do this, but if you have a specific appetite for that and you understand the risks, then go ahead. But that typically is for somebody who's a little bit more advanced and, really knows what they want in real estate investing.
Now, you talked about, obviously, an investment that you may not do. So we're referring to high-risk investments.
Right.
I'm assuming with high-risk investments, there's also the opportunity to get 12, 14 higher percentage rates.
Right.
And someone saying, look, I don't care the risk. I know the property. Because as you know, some sophisticated investors, they've already, they've done this. This is probably not going to be the first time they've done this. So they look at the property, the valuations are there, and they say, I don't care, I'm going to do it. Is that...
Right. Absolutely, Mark. And I had a perfect example of that. A client came to me, he had a failed business venture. His credit was beat up. His income was not really that great. And I told you, we don't typically work with that type of client. But this one came to me, and we had one specific investor that's a realtor in the Oakville area. And she knew the property value there, and she was very comfortable with it. And she knew that if it needed to be sold, the money was there. And she said, you know what, I don't care. I know that property is worth, X amount of dollars. And she said, go ahead. And she did the deal. But typically our process is we will make sure that the client gets an appraisal on the property so that we know what the value is. We'll make sure their credit's in line. Their story has to check out. I'm a very big person on the story, and I always get a good feel when I talk to a person. Do they have their head in the right place, or have they made some bad decisions and are still making bad decisions? We do everything we can to avoid working with people who are making bad decisions in real estate. That being said, there are many making great decisions.
Yeah, and you're touching on something that I've learned over the years, and that is real estate is about a relationship. A lot of people think, well, you know what, I'm going to own this home, and and the idea of a joint venture, working with someone, or the idea of creating relationships with other people, that can be a little bit daunting for people because they think, look, I've got my own money. Why do I need anybody else?
Right.
And so I know that, as you mentioned, eventually you'll run out. It depends on how big, I guess, your portfolio is. Yeah. But I think you're touching on something to me, which is one of the most important things, which is creating a relationship with all our clients, including investors and the borrower.
And that's absolutely it, Mark. We are creating relationships. That's what we're driving for. Our investors are repeat investors. They continually invest their money with us, and they continually get returns. And we can't guarantee that things are always going to go right, but very generally they do. In the last 5 to 6 years, the default rate on our private mortgages is almost zero. I think we had just one in that time frame, and there were hundreds that were lent. And so, compare that to the stock market. If you think about it, how likely is it that you're going to lose money in the stock market versus real estate? If you really did the numbers, you're going to see that you're far better off investing in real estate, and real estate's also giving a far better return.
And I think, too, to clarify, that when you invest with ProFunds, your money's secured against real property.
Yeah.
I use the word, well, you buy a stock, you get a piece of paper that says you own something.
Yeah.
If that company goes under, you've got a piece of paper.
Right.
If the property defaults, your money is that property cannot be sold without you getting your piece of the pie. Is that correct?
You're absolutely right,
so it's
Mark.
Bricks and mortar, as they say.
It's bricks and mortars. It's something real. I can touch it. I can go out and I can hug that building if I want. My investment's still there.
Many times I have.
My investment's still there, right? It's still worth something. And at the end of the day, if the investor, if the borrower doesn't pay, we're in there with you, giving you whatever guidance we can, and we're very helpful in that process. We'll help you as much as we can. I mean, it is your investment if you make the decision to do it, but your chances are you're going to get your money back, and obviously the person borrowing the money, they don't want to default. They don't want to lose their home or their property, so they're going to do everything that they can to make sure that they pay their mortgage.
Now, we haven't, on that same vein, we haven't discussed, the current state of what's happening in the real estate market. Obviously, in the U.S., big crash of 2008, Canada, thank God, we have strong banks. Our mortgage system is nowhere near as shaky as that. There's a lot more stability, but there has been a lot of what they call froth in the bubble. What's your take on that? So if someone were to say, you know what, I want to invest, and we're talking about security and this and that, but in terms of the state of the market right now, what's your opinion?
I think the biggest thing there, Mark, is to acknowledge that it really depends on where a person lives and where specifically they're looking.
Okay.
There are areas that I personally wouldn't invest in. Can I predict, is it going to fall? I don't know for sure. But the things that I look for, specifically, I look for an area that's growing, where average income in that area is growing faster than property prices. There's an obvious sign, because that's indicating that people are going to be able to continue to afford the real estate in that area.
Sure.
So, there are many different avenues that you can go with investing, but when we're talking about mortgages, we're not going to put you into a very highly leveraged situation, meaning that there's very little equity in the property. If you lend a second mortgage, typically we never go over 85% of the value of the property. So there's a 15% buffer there in case the value of the property does change.
Right.
And keep this in context. So many things would have to go wrong in order for you to lose money in a second mortgage lending.
And I think we need to be realistic that obviously people who are following real estate, they understand that Vancouver prices have been going up. Toronto has been doing fantastic. The GTA, things are going well.
Right.
And I think the word you said is, okay, if someone were to value a house at $100,000 and they loan $85,000, they're still $15,000.
Right.
So for something to drop $15,000, I mean, we've seen. We still haven't seen Toronto drop, but we do, historically, I am old enough to know that a drop of 10% is huge. I mean,
Absolutely.
we haven't seen a drop of 10% since, I guess, 1989, and you were, in diapers then, I think?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. We haven't seen those kind of drops, Mark, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't mean that it won't happen, but, you have to go by history in what we can see in the market. And no one has a crystal ball, but it's about making the best educated decision we can. We're not just restricted to Toronto. Say that's not your cup of tea. We have people requesting private mortgages across Canada, and we service across Canada. And there are opportunities. If Toronto's not your cup of tea and you really feel strongly about Kitchener-Waterloo, well, we can keep you in mind for deals that come up in Kitchener-Waterloo or in Newmarket. If this is the area that you want to be investing, absolutely you can do that.
You mentioned something earlier on about that certain areas are more prone. There's indications. We mentioned income in different areas. I think it's important to talk that real estate is a very local thing, and I think for a lot of our viewers, they live in certain areas, so they know their area. They know what the neighborhood is, and more than likely, investing in a local is probably the better move, especially for someone that is not sophisticated.
Right. And the other thing to keep in mind is that our average investor is not sophisticated. These are not people that are incredibly knowledgeable on real estate and know all the ins and outs. These are people who are working, sometimes blue collar, sometimes white collar, professional jobs. And they have money sitting in their RSPs, not doing anything, or they have money sitting in cash, not doing anything, and they don't know what to do with it. And I say come to the forum and learn. You can learn a bit in one night. You're never going to learn it all that night. That's why our investors rely on us to do the screening for them, to tell them, hey, this is a good investment. Obviously, you're still the person that makes the decision as the investor, but we'll do our best to make it as easy on you as possible. We'll give you our honest opinion because, like I said, your money is like our money. Granted, we never actually touch that money. It goes straight to the lawyer and straight to the borrower. we treat it like it's our own. And if anything goes wrong, you can bet that we're going to be in there involved and doing everything we can to make sure that you get your money back, because we want that relationship with you.
Andrew, we're running a little bit short on time. Why don't you? So it's if we've touched on a lot of topics. We've touched on, my goodness, on so many things, and I'm sure a lot of viewers out there would like to further this conversation, as would I. So the seminar is next Thursday, the 12th, I think it is.
Thursday the 12th
at the Howard
September.
Johnson, 15520 Yonge Street in Aurora, and I think it's 7 p.m. So for anyone out there that would like to meet Andrew. I'm probably going to be there as well, because I love to further our conversation and education. You can certainly show up there. You can go to their website and sign up there. You can also go to my website, manainvestments.com, and for more information. And Andrew, I would so like to thank you for coming on the show, and I think it was a bit short notice. Andrew, you've been wonderful, and we'll see you next time on Your Money and Real Estate.